Pleased to be joined right now by senior writer for NBA.com. Used to be a frequent guest of the old Tom Pelissero show on local Minneapolis radio over a decade ago. My friend Steve Aschburner is with us. Steve, great to talk to you again. Where do we find you today?
Hi, Tom. I'm in Denver. I'm awaiting Game 5 and what a lot of people here think is going to be the final game of the NBA Finals.
So are they right now putting up the road barricades and whatnot already? Are there store owners, nailing up wood over their glass windows? Like set the scene for me there in Denver.
Yeah, I just came in from outside. It's raining, so nobody is outside. And that includes city workers. I've seen no signs of that. It's actually been a pretty low-key finals city. I mean, when you're close to the arena, you get a sense, that there's a buzz there. But just in the downtown, restaurants, bars, I assume, if I were to go to any.
Sure, Steve, get that in there.
Yeah, it's pretty low-key. It's not, it doesn't take over the city. At least it hasn't the way I've seen it in some of the, I would say, the Rust Belt cities like Milwaukee and Cleveland and, the cities where it seems you live and die on your sports teams. I think the array of outdoor activities here, like a lot of West Coast teams and cities, it almost has people a little less engaged.
You can just say everybody's high, Steve. You really coded that well. Everybody's very mellow there.
I didn't talk about smells. You notice that?
Yeah. So you've been covering this series. You've been at all the games. Game 5 tonight in Denver. What signs of life, if any, do you see from the Heat to make you believe we might see a Game 6 here?
Oh, I mean, it's their life force. It's their orneriness. It's pluckiness, feistiness, all of that intangible stuff about we're going to be the team that you can't put down. This is Michael Myers sitting up, in the background, in Halloween when you think he's gone. I mean, that's how this Miami team operates, and it has served them well. There's a point though where never say die. You eventually have to say die. It just seems that 4 rounds in, having done what they did as an asterisk number 8 seed, they technically were the 7th best team in the East, and then they lost the first play-in game, so they started to play from 8 in the tournament. But to do what they've done, remarkable. All credit to them, but they have limitations that were in play to get them to that 7th place finish in the East. And, I think they've butted up against some of that stuff. I mean, they're scoring. Offensively, they rank very low, and they're having a difficult time getting to 100 in the finals here against Denver, a team not necessarily known for defensive prowess. And, they're trying to do this with Jimmy Butler as their best player. And you don't see a lot of that in NBA championship annals. The history of the league is you really do need a Hall of Fame, sort of a no-brain Hall of Fame type player to carry you, to get on his back and go all the way. And the only comps I can think of for Butler, in recent memory, Chauncey Billups, when Detroit won, I think it was 2004, that was really an ensemble Pistons team. And, I mean, you have to reach all the way back to maybe the Supersonics in 1979, Seattle, when they had a franchise, for Dennis Johnson, who was a Hall of Famer, but not really a superstar. And he and Gus Williams carried their team. So, you do – this is a star-driven league. And if Jimmy Butler's your number one, it might explain why you don't get all the way over the top.
What is Jimmy Butler in your mind at this point? Is he a good 2 on a championship caliber team? Like where does he fit in at this stage in his career?
Yeah, well, I think that. Now, I will qualify all this by saying, I was in Chicago working out of that city when he came in as a rookie, and I kind of underestimated him at every stage. First, I thought, well, he's the number 30 pick, last pick of the first round. He came from Marquette. I went to Marquette, so I sort of had a rooting interest But I thought, he's going to have a tough time making it in this league. He's got shorter than usual arms. The trajectory on his jump shot is flat. Well, he established himself defensively first with Tom Thibodeau, and then he, took off from there. And he has exceeded any ceiling that I might have had in my head about him. Now, that said, I do think, at any point going forward, including this year, but certainly as he hits age 34 and beyond, he needs to be your second best player at best. Miami needs, whatever it is, whether it's a Damian Lillard type, and he's not young either, but, he needs another guy. He's also not a natural-born scorer, and so he functions best as, facilitating the offense, taking over, some tough defensive chores sometimes, and that requires energy that you can't just all leave at the other end. So, I think, all props to Jimmy for getting this team to this point and having done it in the bubble a few years ago. But it goes against the grain of what the traditions are. And I will not cut him any slack for, an ankle turn 2 series ago. I mean, people don't cut a lot of players, certainly star players, slack if they have an off night, regardless of their injury situation. So you want to play at that level and be in that conversation. By now, his ankle should not be an issue. Now, if he has surgery a week after the series ends, then I take it back.
Senior writer for NBA.com, Steve Aschburner, is our guest. Steve, you've covered this league for a long time in Minneapolis, in Chicago, nationally here. With Nikola Jokic, and I've been trying to think of this for several days here about who the best comparison would be to him historically. Because to me, and again, I've always qualified this with I have very cursory NBA knowledge. I cover the NFL for a living. That takes up a good majority of my time. But to me, he looks in every regard like a throwback type of a player from the 50s in terms of everything from the haircut to the way that he shoots the ball to the pass first type of mentality at times. If you have a comp through your entire time covering the league for the Joker, who is it?
I'm not going to go back nearly that far. I think he reminds me in a lot of ways of Tim Duncan. Low to no profile away from the court. His accent sort of limits his engagements with the media. Well, with Duncan, it was just his simple stoicism and where he played and not having a flashy game, facilitating teammates. I don't think Duncan had any top 75 guys at his side when, he helped that team win 5 championships. And, David Robinson at the start. But, certainly later, Parker and Ginobili, Hall of Famers, but largely because they played with Tim Duncan. And I think Jokic, to me, is reminiscent of that. He didn't excite people, and it usually, to use a popular term these days, the casuals, people that aren't diehard basketball or NBA fans, might not engage as much with Jokic's game, same as Duncan, the big fundamental, as Shaq called him. And, that's not as exciting as the dunks and the barrage of three-point shots and, ferocious, give me that rebounding type of things. So that's my comp.
And I made the same point earlier, Ash. I don't know that if you, and again, I'm certainly in that casual category, and I think that a lot of people, especially young people, consume the game now through highlight reels, right? It's YouTube and it's a highlight on Twitter here and there. I don't know that there's a single Jokic highlight that you just sit back and go, wow, that was amazing. There's no, LeBron James, Michael Jordan level thing. It's just when you sit there and watch him through an entire 48-minute game and everything that he does up and down the court and the way that he creates things for other people. And then somehow, again, even without the highlights, you get to the end of the game and he's got 30, 20, and 11. And you go, wow, that was a remarkably effective game for somebody who maybe isn't going to have a single thing that's in the SportsCenter top 10.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you can find highlight reels of his passes, and a lot of those are breathtaking. Now, admittedly, I mean, his court vision is one of his greatest strengths. Well, we can't look through his eyes, but we see the end result when he sees cutting players and opportunities and openings that very few people could hit and delivering that ball. I feel a little bad for him from the standpoint that if the improbable were to happen and Miami were to claw its way back and steal these finals at this point, I'm not sure the referendum on Jokic would change. I think people would pile on and say, oh, well, see what happened? We never. It's as if he doesn't have any margin for error. He had 4 assists in Game 2. He scored more. They lost Game 2, and all of a sudden it's, well, why didn't he have more assists? So it's an odd sort of imbalance against this guy. And part of it is just playing for Denver. I mean, the Mountain Time Zone, how many primetime games do they get? If they get national TV, they're the second game usually. And on the East Coast, that gets awfully late. And, again, you have to want to watch a Nuggets game. They're not thrust in front of you, the way the Lakers and the Celtics and, back in the day, the Chicago Bulls with Jordan and all. So, I think it's still unfair, but I don't think any of that bothers him either. I mean, he doesn't really care. So I will be happy for a guy who's one of the best players I've ever seen if he's able to finish this off and maybe, have a little less of a shaky pedestal to stand on.
Ash, thanks a lot thanks. We appreciate your time, man. That is Steve Aschburner, senior writer for NBA.com.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.